Shane Watson, who's obviously playing. He just made a brilliant century in Australia in the T20s pad against India. So he's in fine form. So that's something to look forward to.
Well, he is. He's trying to get back into that Australian T20 side. So it's a big tournament for him. If he can do it well here, then he's in the business. And his mate and teammate Andre Russell's in the same side as him. They've just won that Big Bash League, so they nicely organised. You've got Brad Haddon, his experienced guy. You look at their bowlers. I mean, Latif's down there, Mohammed Sami. I mean, I think he's such an experienced
when we talk
performer.
about obviously these wickets, we talk about spinners, right? And obviously on UAE, we've seen that spin is obviously very handy and useful. And in this squad, you've got someone like Samuel Badri, who's obviously one of the best leg spinners in the world. And then you've got some, players who are relatively not they haven't really performed and they haven't really represented on an international level. But you've got like Ashar Zaidi, someone who was a part of BPL. He's a left-arm spinner and he's done particularly well, taken 17 wickets over there. And Imran Khalid and Kamran Ghulam, again, these are players that are spinners and represent Pakistan. Obviously, they've played a lot of domestic. So a lot of spin we'll get to see in this tournament.
No, we certainly will. But Zahiri, watch him if he plays. I was impressed with him, I tell you.
Yeah. Okay, and obviously if we're talking about teams, then we've obviously got Lahore Qalandars as well, captained by Azhar Ali, and it's obviously one of the most prominent cricketers that are representing Lahore Qalandars is Chris Gayle. And we've just seen, Chris Gayle, he's got 100 in every league patch. I mean, he's one of the most important players a team can have.
Not only the most important, he's one of the most feared players. Who you've got to bowl against. Umar Akmal, I mean, we know Dwayne Bravo, Kevin Cooper. Watch Kevin Cooper. Yeah. Watch him. Tall West Indian. Tough to get away. Fantastic at the back end. Cameron Delport, it gives it a smack in my butt. You just keep going through the right-hand side there. I mean, it's just Abdul Razak. It just Jonathan Mendes, you've got
a lot of
batters in there that hit the ball many a mile. So that's the side that you've got to watch out. I mean, if Chris Gale's on form and Dwayne Bravo and Kevin Cooper come to the party, man, good luck.
And obviously the infusion of spin as well. You can see Adnan Rasool, he's an off spinner from Pakistan. He's played a lot of domestic cricket. And Ajanta Mendes. So you've got all these, every team has sort of balanced their squad out by adding spinners in it.
That's a nice side though, I gotta tell you.
Okay, obviously we were talking about the teams. You've obviously got Peshawar Zalmi over here as well, captained by none other than Boom Boom Shahid Afridi. I don't think that man needs any introduction. And again, a very powerful side. If you look at it, you've got Darren Sammy. We all know his hitting abilities. He can come lower down the order, and he's also known as a game changer who can completely change the things around. And then you've got players like Tamim Iqbal who've done well for Bangladesh, and Wahab Riaz. Obviously, he can be useful with his pace. And so, how do you look at the squad? You've also got Sean Tate.
One thing I'm very mindful of is Shahid Afridi. We just roll quickly past him as the captain. Very astute, lots of experience, and he himself, how he uses himself as the bowler batter is critical to any side. And I think he's got so much experience now that you never seem to get away from him as a captain. So be careful of this side. It might not have. There's something that tells me it's not got great stars in it, except Shahid Afridi, Darren Sammy. You watch out for Brad Hodge, Kamran Akmal in there, Sean Tate, who's been drafted in as a fast bowler, Shahid Yusuf. It's got players that this side can upset anyone.
And it's got pace as well. I mean, we cannot overlook someone like Sean Tate who bowls at express pace, and then even Wahab Riaz, Junaid Khan. So, like you said, it might be, what you'd call the underdogs of the tournament. And obviously we're talking about all the teams. So the next team we've got on board is Karachi Kings, captained by Shoaib Malik. And surprisingly, whenever I've spoken to everyone around and engaged with people on social media, this team seems to be one of the strongest around, and that's mainly because they've got a good mix of all-rounders. They've got, Imad Wasim, Sohail Tanveer, who's done well in the T20s. and then, you know, somebody like Lendl Simmons to open. And then again, we talk about spin and how left-arm spinners do particularly well. You know, you've got Shakib Al Hasan. So how do you look at the side? Well,
there are two players that I'm watching here careful. Lendl Simmons, obviously the captain Shah Malik, but watch out for Tilikiratne Dilshan. We know when he kicks off, if he has a good series, this side can do wonders here. But really, you know, Shakib Al Hasan, so talented and does both. Ravi Bapara, tough to get away, bowls his little fancy little, you know, the small seamers, mixed it up with spin. Lots of experience as a batsman.
And I think one player we can't forget is Mohammad Amir. You know, he recently made a comeback against New Zealand. And what we saw was that initially his first T20 that he played, he seemed a little nervous. But then towards the end, as the tournament progressed, we saw the old Mohammad Amir that we've seen, you know, when we saw him play initially. So we can see that he's got his swing back and he's getting into shape and he's bowling with a lot of accuracy. Pretty much the same bowler that we saw.
Lob him in there with Sahil Tanvir.
Yeah.
As a bowling attack. And I tell you what, that's not bad. So they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough. You know, and Shah Malik as a player and captain. Oh, I tell you, lots of experience.
Yeah, and talking about teams, obviously, this is obviously the squad, but there are a lot of supplementary players that are not present, but they can be called in place of, you know, if they need to be used. Like I have heard that Saeed Ajmal is now being called into the proper squad, and initially he was being used as a supplementary player. And the last team, obviously, which is going to be playing today is Quetta Gladiators, which is going to be captained by Sarfraz Ahmed. And, you know, if you look at the first name in this list, it's someone who absolutely needs no introduction, Kevin Peterson. We know what he can do, and he's done particularly well right now in the Big Bash League. We saw him play for Melbourne, and he was doing particularly well for them. And then they've got, you know, all-rounders like Luke Wright.
But don't write off the man in the middle there. With all the experience, when he plays well, if he has a good tournament, it's going to be a tough side to beat. Because when you combine the Petersons with Kumar Sangakkara, you've got steadiness with Peterson. Sangakkara is a supplementary. He will, but you know, if he makes it, when he arrives and plays, you know, you just look at the experience in that side. I think it's not a side that you want to write off. Certainly, Kevin Peterson, if he has a good series, you know, anything can happen here.
And Ahmed Shahzad, again, you know, he's had a poor series. We saw that against New Zealand, he couldn't really score. So like we discussed with Ramiz as well, that this is an opportunity for players who are not particularly doing well to come back into form.
Yep, Ramiz Raza, Jr.
Yeah.
He's in there too.
Yes, of course, he's there too. But again, I think it's going to be a very competitive tournament back. But we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we're going to take you live to the opening ceremony. Stay tuned.
Telenor 3G mobiles 50% डिस्काउंट ऑफर। अब किसी भी Telenor 3G मोबाइल की खरीदारी पर दूसरा मोबाइल हासिल करें 50% डिस्काउंट पे।